It's July of 2015 and welcome to this segment of Take 5 with Tony. Last time we talked about trickle-down economics and what it's supposed to do and how it really hasn't panned out. Well, I want to review that, but mostly I want to talk to you today about something very different, something called bottom-up economics. That's going to be a theme of this series. Now let's begin with a short review of trickle-down. Trickle-down economics, you might recall, is based on the notion that we have layers in society with a small group at the top, and that those folks are the key to economic prosperity. That if we pour in a little wine or champagne, it will overflow the boundaries and reach the next level. Soon that will overflow and reach the next, until pretty much everybody is getting some of the action, getting that prosperity that has trickled down from that little group at the top. That's how trickle-down is supposed to work. But actually, as we've discovered, trickle-down looks a lot more like this. There's a big group at the bottom, and they don't have very big cups. There's a very small group in the middle, and then at the top, it isn't a chalice, but it's a huge bowl that no matter how much we pour into it in the form of subsidies and tax breaks and loopholes and incentives, it never seems to get full enough to overflow and trickle down to the rest. That's the reality of trickle down. Now, there's something emerging all around the country that's quite different, and I've been calling it the bottom-up economy. This is a little bit more like what the bottom-up economy looks like. It's a ragtag of different sizes and shapes, of different forms and colors, all of which come from the bottom. That is to say, the foundation. And the foundation is both uneven and very, very fertile and exciting, because the foundation is the people, their communities and places, their buildings and their culture, all of which go into creating these opportunities for building prosperity. That's the basic difference. So let's talk a little bit about four specific contrasts between trickle-down and bottom-up economy. First, trickle-down begins, as we said, with investment. But the investment is channeled almost entirely to a tiny group at the top. And it stays there. It stays stuck there. By contrast, bottom-up invites investment in a wide range of businesses, of enterprise, of innovations, and of organizations. Investment that's catered to different needs and different stages of growth for companies. And as such, that investment helps to create a homegrown economy. Secondly, trickle-down cultivates dependence, a dependence on this bowl, a dependence on a tiny group at the top that hopefully will create that wealth and that will then flow out for the rest of us. Not so with the bottom-up economy. Bottom-up economy, in fact, builds a much, much more diverse, much more interesting, and an economy that's based on opportunity and the assets of that particular region. Third, the nature of trickle-down and the way investments flow and the expectations of investors means that much of trickle-down economics also is a cookie-cutter approach, where pretty much everything is the same, where you can see the exact same thing in an off-ramp in Abingdon, Virginia, as you would see in Boulder, Colorado, or San Diego, California. Very cookie-cutter, the same solutions for very different places. Bottom-up is based on the particular people, the ecosystem that they live in, and the history and the culture and the arts that they all together comprise. So it's anything but a cookie cutter, and because of that, it's much harder to outsource a bottom-up economy. And lastly, the trickle-down approach to economic development tends to foster boom and bust cycles, where we'll be rich one period and poor the next, where things flow back and forth, and ultimately we're dependent on the whims of the global market. Very different with the bottom-up economy. Because of the nature of the businesses and the enterprise, in fact, rather than being boom and bust, it tends to create slow but steady growth and, very importantly, an asset-based approach that builds on the particular strengths of those regions. So bottom-up is a fundamentally different approach from trickle-down, and the end result, rather than dependent economies, is resilient and more self-reliant economies that work better for people and their places. I'm looking forward to explaining to you specific examples of bottom-up, and we're going to be looking at some places around the country where this is already taking place. Thanks, and see you next time.